Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review of the movie Novocaine that I watched, that I recorded off of like the premium movie channels that we get. So, I thought that this was okay. It's not the worst action movie I've seen, but it's definitely not within the top tier ones that I would recommend. And I don't really fault that down to the actors in here. We have Jack Quaid. Let's see. Wrong one there. Yeah. Jack Quaid, Amber Midthunder from Prey, Ray Nicholson, Jack Nicholson's son, which I had that kind of weird moment that I see him in there. I'm like, why the fuck does this dude look familiar? I'm like, holy fucking shit. We also have Ned, Jacob Batalon from the Spider-Man series. So that was kind of cool. So, pretty much this is centered around someone that cannot feel pain. Nathan Kane. Nickname Novocaine. And that pretty much goes to the plot, where it's just pretty much like a really kind of thin plot, and they just kind of have these kind of set pieces of Nathan kind of fighting one dude, coming out on top, fighting another dude, coming out on top, and then kind of just trying to get to some kind of conclusion to kind of finish it off. Because it kind of comes off as someone that had the really cool idea of okay, this dude doesn't really fight, and he doesn't feel pain. Let's see what we can do with that. And then just kind of just spitballing there, and then just kind of trying to connect a plot there. And there's at least a good enough basis. He's like a mild-mannered introvert with congenital insensitivity to pain, with androsis, SIPA. It's like, oh, okay, he's a gamer. He pretty much doesn't do much. He eats pretty much liquid foods most of the time because he could accidentally bite his tongue off and not notice it. So he just pretty much is there. This is set around Christmas time of 2024. He evidently has eyes for Amber Midthunder's character, Sherry, and she's been working there for like 4 months. He is the assistant manager to this like trust credit union in San Diego. So we see that she kind of comes up behind him in the workplace. He accidentally spills coffee on himself. She wants to take him out to lunch, and at first he's like not really into it, but then goes for it. She coerces him pretty much into, well, she keeps pleading for him to like try this pie that's supposed to be really good pie, and then he lays out what kind of goes on, and he decides against it to actually eat the pie. I mean, it sounds kind of worse, but the thing is, there's an ulterior motive that she's got going on that gets revealed throughout the movie. However, she feels bad about that later on. But of course, she didn't know. She's like, this is really good pie. And he's like, please stop. I can't. And then brings up the whole thing. It's like, oh, okay. And then invites him to like an art showing later on that night. He, of course, then ditches the Roscoe dude, the Ned lead character. He's like, all right, fine. Just leave me to die here, pretty much. And he's like, all right, fine, cool. So it goes out, pretty much sees that she did this art and everything like that. It's like, oh, okay, kind of getting to know her a little better. But then, of course, that's when one of his asshole people from middle school pops up, talks about how, he's got Novocaine as his nickname, that once people found out that he couldn't feel pain, that they would really go at his ass. It's like, yeah, fuckers. And he also has to set a timer to go to the bathroom. That only just pops up. It doesn't really get any kind of like repercussions or anything, other than just to keep the audience kind of a reminder that he's got the no pain condition, even though we go through the movie and him having action sequences pretty much showcasing the whole kind of pain thing. So he then comes back, and the one dude's kind of flirting with her, and she orders these shots, and she's like, oh, talking about burying the hatchet, but it is like a hot sauce shot, and Nathan has really no reaction to it. The other dude's like, oh, shit, and then she's like, pick up the tab, dude, and they go back to his place, and she kind of remarks that he's got all these books and everything, and then reading about first aid and all that, and then that she's got some scars on her as well, and that sometimes people are looking for people to show those kind of things to as they kind of bang. He wakes up. She left a note pretty much as like, yeah, he's feeling all right. Let's see. So then we see them on Christmas Eve, and then a gang of robbers dressed up in Santa suits, led by Simon Greeley, are coming into there. They try and get the manager to open up the vault, but the lead dude, played by Ray Nicholson, decides, fuck you, and pretty much shoots him. And then he tries to do the same thing with Nathan, beating on him and everything, but of course he doesn't feel any pain. Sherry, of course, trying to cover for him and being held as a hostage. He opens up the vault, they get all the money, and they book it out. However, there are police officers there, and they start kind of like gunning at him and everything. They put down their guns, but of course they shoot at him and then just kind of bug off with Sherry in two different vehicles. One dude's got the money, the other two have Sherry. And then we see that Nathan kind of goes out, helps one of the police officers that was shot, takes his gun, and goes off in the cruiser. Dude with the money pretty much tries to shoot at him a little bit and kind of peels off, and Nathan accidentally picks the one that's got the money, and we get the whole fight that you'd probably seen in the trailer where they're fighting in the kitchen. Decent enough fight. There's not a whole lot of jump cuts where you're like, I have no idea what the fuck's going on. It does kind of go on for a little bit longer than I think it really should, because Nathan's still trying to figure out the fighting and everything. One of the guns gets dropped in the deep fryer, and he kind of pulls it out and accidentally shoots the dude, and he's dead. He's like, oh, damn, are you okay? And then pretty much takes a picture of the dude's tattoo to try and get some information from that, sending it to Roscoe, and Roscoe's like, I don't want to do any of this shit. We've also got, of course, the detective pair that are trying to figure out what's kind of going on with this dude. I was like, all right, cool. We either got somebody who's on the inside, which that was Sherry's character, who was the sister to Simon? Yeah. Yeah, the adoptive sister. She was in foster care. So, yeah, we're like, all right, so that's kind of what she's feeling bad about everything like that, and they're pretty much waiting for the Ben dude. So he sent this stuff to Roscoe, and Roscoe's like, I don't want to be doing any of this stuff. We've got this, yeah, and then the cop characters are trying to figure out what his kind of angle is, and we're like, all right, fine. They don't really get much. One of them's like a snarky kind of dude, but doesn't really give much. Mincy Langston and Matt Walsh. The Matt Walsh dude gets killed at the end. Man, I didn't even... It was just like Detective 1, Detective 2 kind of shit. Let's see. Mincy pretty much gets to talk with Nathan because they just used his phone number. It's like, yeah, I'm trying to help Sherry. That's pretty much it. If somebody took your daughter, wouldn't you go after him? She's like, yeah, pretty much. So he then gets information and gets to his next pretty much set piece, which is a tattoo parlor, talking with this big beefy motherfucker. So they found a really good beefy motherfucker as he pretty much tries to bullshit his way, kind of fucks up, and then fights this dude by putting glass into his hands and just like wailing on him, taking out his eyes. I mean, he accidentally like impaled him with a fucking baseball bat thing in the armpit, and I'm like, that probably should have fucked him up a lot better. But he gets the information out of him about like this auto parts shop. Gets the full name of the dude, finds out about the finds his address by utilizing his bank contact stuff, which is like, oh shit, that's not good. Then that's where he finds the whole stuff with the auto shop. This is at the point where the other brother goes in, to try and find him. We get this kind of weird prepper kind of thing where it's booby-trapped and he gets like hit with a chain ball, gets shot in the leg with an arrow. The dude pretty much tries to torture him to figure out what's kind of going on, ripping off his nails. He's like making the whole bit that he's feeling pain, but he's not. Roscoe's like, fine, I'm coming and helping your ass. Gets in there and pretty much like helps him a little bit, but he gets taken out by like one of the sledgehammer booby traps, and Nathan uses the arrow in his leg to pretty much kill the other dude before they figure out everything like that. This is where the detectives pretty much show up to try and get him. Roscoe pretty much runs off, and it's funny, he didn't look anything like he had described himself to be, and Nathan's like, what the fuck, but you came and you helped me, thank you. He just goes off on the Vespa that he said that was like a Harley kind of shit. It's like, alright, fine. But Nathan's able to pretty much kind of like get to the auto body shop, learns about Sherry's betrayal, and Simon pretty much tries to drop a car on him before the police show up. The detectives think they took him out, but I was like, you just shot him in the side, man. And then, of course, is where the Matt Walsh detective gets taken out. Mincy pretty much gets shot, and the thing is, chaos ensues. Nathan is in, like, a pretty bad condition, is in the ambulance that Simon then decided to jack, but he doesn't know that he's in there. And then, Sherry decides to take one of the cop cars, and Mincy comes with him, as well as, Roscoe, and they bugger off after him. We see Simon and Nathan having words and like trying to fight each other before he's trying to get to one of these like Harbor Point piers, and then Nathan pretty much shocks himself and shocks the dude and has him kind of thrown out. The Simon dude pretty much does a compound fracture fucking thing that like takes out Nathan's arm, which is gnarly looking. Let's see. He, of course, uses adrenaline on himself because one of the people that he was helping at the bank, he decided to, like, get information from as well, and gave him some of the money that he had from the whole bank heist kind of thing that was in the car. Let's see. And then he pretty much... They just do the things so that way his arm has like a broken bone out that he can then stab through and do the kind of glory kill on Simon before them passing out and then waking up in the hospital 2 weeks later. He pretty much gets off light, and even Mincy's like, yeah, you're like a first offender kind of white dude. You've got you've got like 6 months house arrest and probation. Of course, Sherry is in prison, and he kind of visits her and brings her some pie and stuff like that. So she's been in there for like a little, almost for her whole year sentence. And they get into a little kind of fucking thing with like, the prison guard kind of like fucking with them and everything. It's an okay movie. They don't really do much with the characters. And I don't really fault the actors because I've seen them in other kind of things, and when they're giving good material, it's better. Like, they're doing great. Like, I liked Ned in the Spider-Man series, Jack Quaid in The Boys, Amber Midthunder was good in Prey. That's the only thing I've seen her in, and Ray Nicholson, mainly his presence and him just having fun with the role kind of helped. They just gave him the typical kind of bad guy thing and probably told him to do any kind of like facial features that he could. So it was mainly just felt like a set piece movie where they had the idea of the dude that didn't have pain and just strung the barest kind of minimal plot. I think they really could have fleshed it out a little bit better, planned out the set pieces better so that way they flowed better, and really gave some more meat to the characters, because it's just kind of basic. It's not the worst kind of plot ever, but it's not something I would completely recommend because the characters and story aren't going to completely be kind of ground changing for you unless this is kind of like your first action movie and you're like first kind of working into it, which at this point they're probably kind of better action movies to kind of cut your teeth on. And the action sequences are just fine. They're not something that you'd be like, holy fucking shit, I get action movies now. It's just, yeah, okay, so they're doing this, that, and the other to pretty much see what this dude will do, since he doesn't feel pain. It's a little under 2 hours. Let's see here. It's like 110, 111 minutes. I don't feel like my time was completely wasted. I mean, when the actors were able to do what they needed to do, it worked out passably enough. But there are better action movies out there. I would recommend Ballerina over this. And now I do have a bias towards John Wick movies because I love John Wick movies. However, my main ones are like 1 and 2 because I kind of consider those like together. 3 got a little bit like, okay, you're kind of getting a little bit self-indulgent, but it's interesting what you're doing with the story. 4 definitely went the self-indulgent route, and even though the story and the characters were still interesting enough, I'm like, what are you fucking doing? Hold on, let's... And then we'll see what kind of goes on with 5. Ballerina kind of brought it back and kind of like centered itself a little bit more for me. But yeah. If it's on and you need something on, I think you'll have a decent enough time with it, as well as if you're bored. This is definitely gross and graphic, so if you're not into that, don't go for that. There's other better things out there for you. Yeah, but if you want to not waste time or have... It'll be decent enough, but if you need something on in the background or kind of a time waster... Use this as your last resort, and I think you'll at least get something out of it. So those are my opinions on the movie. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.